there, my name's Daniel. Welcome to Cosmic Coaching. So, I want to talk about a topic which is very fascinating to me, and that is the nature of time. Time is one of those perplexing dimensions that we can't quite grasp onto because it's not tangible. It's ephemeral, it's mysterious, and people have been debating about the nature of time for millennia. Philosophers, mystics, spiritual gurus, and multi-dimensional type of people. So from my point of view, time is very interesting because I think in its essence, time is a construct of the human mind. In other words, it is a function of human consciousness. There is no time other than what human beings or living beings perceive as time. So we can perceive time as a linear function because we have clocks and we have to keep track of the hours that go by. But time, as we know, is very subjective. So if we're enjoying an activity, we know that time seems to go by very fast. Likewise, if we're doing something that's extremely boring, time seems to drag on forever. So people have sort of described time as being a multi-dimensional in itself. You can see time as being sort of a cyclical phenomenon. You can also see time as a spiral phenomenon. And we can also consider that time is something that present is a function of what's coming from the future and what's meeting us from the past, and it kind of weaves into what we experience as the eternal now moment. So being in the present is very difficult for modern day humans. That's why Eckhart Tolle wrote a whole book about it called The Power of Now. So how do we grasp onto this concept of time in such a way that we can actually manipulate the constructs and experiences of our reality? So how do we work with time to our benefit? So I'm going to tell you a couple of cool stories that comes from anecdotes from a Greg Braden book called The Isaiah Effect. One of his chapters, he talks about an experience that he had on the way to Egypt with his group. So he was hosting a tour. They were going to, I believe it was the Giza pyramids. And long story short, a trip that was supposed to take them roughly 8 hours on this crickety old bus and this very sort of dangerous and precarious roads, typically it would take at least 8 hours. Now, for whatever reason, the bus that they were on got there in roughly half the time. So it took 4 hours instead of 8. And the people who were awaiting them were very perplexed as to how they had gotten there so much earlier than expected, because they had left at the time that they were supposed to leave, but they got there much earlier. Not 5-10 minutes, but something like 4 hours early. How do you explain that? The bus was not going any faster. It couldn't go any faster. Standard trip. As Greg Braden explains it, they managed to somehow dilate time. They managed to manipulate the space-time continuum by virtue of their consciousness. Now, in other words, what they did was, because they were all kind of focused on a future moment in time, which would be the arriving at the pyramids and experiencing the pyramids, because they were all excited about that, talking about that, thinking about that, experiencing that in their mind and in their consciousness, what in effect happened, according to Greg, is that the consciousness of the people on the bus inadvertently manipulated this time-space physics such that they were able to transcend time. They were able to get to the same point in physical space much faster than they should have been able to. That tells you that time is variable, and that tells you that time depends on consciousness. So the more powerful and masterful the consciousness of the entity or person or group, the more so that time can be manipulated. That's just one example. And there are other sorts of examples like that. He also talks about a situation where they were able to heal a cancerous tumor in under 3 minutes in a medicineless hospital in China. You had 3 monks there chanting a phrase, and you see the bladder tumor in real time on an ultrasound. In less than 3 minutes, you witness the tumor dissolving. How is this possible? Well, these seasoned monks, these gurus, were chanting a very specific phrase, which in English means something to the effect of "it is done." So in other words, they were already manifesting a future timeline where not only was this person healed of the tumor, but the tumor never existed. In other words, they focused in on a choice point where the body is completely healed. It never did have a tumor. So it's kind of like shifting tracks on a parallel timeline in which the body is completely healed. It always was, because there's infinite number of permutations and possibilities. So that suggests a lot of incredible potential for healing, for manipulating time in a positive way, and for creating realities in ways that we can't possibly fathom. Okay, if you think about, a tumor can disappear in a matter of minutes, such that, another choice point is activated for that person's physical body, then you see that there are incredible magical possibilities. You're creating alchemy in terms of the space-time physics. The physics of the space-time continuum is beyond what we can fathom. And here's the thing. Our consciousness interacts with that continuum, both the spatial aspects and the temporal aspects, and they come together to create the fabric of reality that we're very familiar with. But what we aren't familiar with is the ability to actually master this domain. Okay, that is the incredible potential for human beings. So I just wanted to kind of introduce this topic in terms of the temporal dimension, because I think that's just fascinating. And again, the key formula here is time is a function of consciousness. Time is a function of whatever consciousness is doing the perceiving or experiencing, whether that be a ascended master, an angel, a godlike being, or a mere human. But what I'm calling a mere human, I say that facetiously because human beings have extraordinary potential that we have yet to experience and to explore and to play with. So I hope that was inspiring to you. If you like this concept of time and miracles and choice points, I will do more videos on that. Until then, feel free to click on the links below. I do counseling sessions, empathic counseling, brain health consultations, and holistic life coaching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.